The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by...
For nearly 60 years, Arts United has worked to bring the rich, diverse talents of our region together through support of the arts, socially, culturally, and economically. Arts United, providing a home for the arts in Northeast Indiana.
Excellence lives here in Northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is presented by the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of the arts.
Welcome to this edition of Arts Weekly. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On today's show, we'll meet IPFW Adjunct Faculty members Patricia Weiss and Derek Decker to learn about their two-person ceramics and painting show. We'll also chat with Dr. Barbara Resch regarding the Indiana Music Educators Association State Convention that takes place here in Fort Wayne. Let's start by welcoming Patricia and Derek. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, I want to talk about the exhibit in a little bit, but first I would like to learn more about each of you and the kind of art that you create. Patricia, what is your medium of choice?
I'm an oil painter.
Oil painter.
But first I like to collect before I paint.
Okay, and what do you collect?
Teapots, teacups, anything that's shiny. I like to put still life objects together that are, create light.
So you put these things together so that you can create them in oil paint. Now, how did this interest in your art begin?
Probably when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sit in my room and draw, and in the back of a comic book there was a art instruction school, and you could draw the picture that they had in the magazine and send it in. And if you were good enough, you got to get into their school. Well, I was only 10, so I decided to do that, and I sent it in. And they did contact my family and say, we would like your daughter to come to our school. And she's only 10 years old, and they said no. And they sent them the picture, and my mom was like, you did this? And they weren't really aware of the kind of drawing that I did. So
I remember seeing those little blurbs in the back of magazines. That's pretty neat.
A woman or a pirate or something like that.
Oh, that's pretty neat that they actually found real artists that way.
They did. Yeah, I had friends that actually went.
Yeah, wow. So you started drawing when you were young, and you just kind of developed this drawing and continued it. And when did you start the painting?
I actually did photography, and I did a little woodworking and things like that, and then I started to get my BFA, and you had to take all the classes. So when I took painting, I just really fell in love with it.
So it's nice that you've had all this background in the drawing and the photography and those different art forms. Yeah, because then you're able to see probably the different lights and shadows, through those other mediums, I would imagine. Now, what drew you toward the painting, though, when you started taking it in college, that said, this is what I really want to work in?
I think it's just the medium of it. It's something that you can pick up, you can smear around, you can change. When I did photography, you had to take the picture of what you were seeing and pretty much unchanged. And with painting, you could just create all kinds of little worlds, and that's kind of what I do now.
And you could always just keep changing it, too, if you didn't like a little color or a little shadow, just tweak it a little bit. And do you always work with the oil?
I do.
Yeah, that's just your preferred medium now. So you mentioned that you had these collections that you start with before you paint. What inspired you to have these collections and then decide to paint these still lifes?
Well, my dad's a collector, and he has a pole barn full of things that he's collected, so I kind of grew up with it.
It's kind of like a treasure trove, isn't it? You can walk in there and find something to paint.
Yes, it is. And I've just always liked dishes and teapots and things that I have in my home, and putting those all together in a still life. Sometimes, you get a reflective object, and it makes a beautiful painting.
Now, are you as big a collector as your dad? I mean, do you then
Not
still
quite.
have your own?
Not quite. He likes to look at mine. I like to look at his.
You still head out to his pole barn every once in a while. Now, you've started to add people to your paintings.
Yes, I just
as well.
started to. A couple years ago, I took a student aside that she used to dress in the cutest little clothes with, T-shirts with jewelry and things, and I thought I put her in this painting that's up right now, Lauren Pouring. I just kind of created the world around her. She's not actually standing in a garden or anything.
So is that something you think you'll continue to do, to add people to these once in a while? Just
Right.
To
I've
change
got
it
a couple
up
other
bit?
gals that have said they'd pose for me. So.
Oh, that's fun to do something a little bit different. Now, Derek, tell me about the kind of work that you do. Are you a sculptor or are you a ceramicist?
I think you can call me both, but primarily a sculptor that's using the ceramic material as well as other mixed media within those sculptures I create.
So what is your background, and how did you develop this interest in art?
My background, I started a little bit later in the arts. I was a biology major originally and hit chemistry, and after hitting chemistry realized that my brain wasn't really wired that way, and decided to try my love of art, which I had always had, but really try to pursue it professionally, in the academics and see what happens. And I succeeded with the classes I took, and so I decided to just major in art. So
how did you get to the sculpting and ceramics phase, and how did you decide to combine these two?
It's interesting because at IPFW, like Patricia was saying, as a fine art student, you have to take all the drawings and paintings, and so you do get a good basis of the different mediums within a department. And around your junior year, senior year, as your undergrad, you have an opportunity to really focus on a specific medium, and I kind of was drawn into the artists like H.C. Westerman with his found objects, and then I learned about the funk movement that was happening out in California in the 70s, and I really liked some of that work. So it's kind of what drew me into the way I create my work today.
It's pretty complicated.
Oh yeah. It takes a lot of time, and you have to understand a lot of processes, but with the background of sculpture that I have, I got an opportunity to try a lot of processes with different materials to where now I can take that knowledge that I possess and be able to really put it to use within my works.
Now, your sculptures, these pieces, so many of them look like metal. I mean, but they're not metal.
Yeah.
I mean, that process, how did you develop that to make them look so realistic?
That took a while. I had to do a lot of research on those artists that were in the field that had perhaps used those mediums that I used, like clay, and then tried to make it look like metal. So I kind of looked into anything that was written about them, what if they had written any information about glaze recipes, and then started from there. And then I ended up transforming those glaze recipes and altering them to where I could create my own glazes to give me the look that I wanted for those clay pieces.
Some of that metal needs a shinier surface and some a little duller.
So that's where it's difference of silica and your glass formers that are put into the glazes that develop.
It's a very industrial look, these pieces that you're saying, what's your vision behind creating these?
Oh, the vision I have is just really the context of the objects and how they were used in our time period, or even I'll fantasize about a time period that might not even be existent yet, but in the future, and then I'll try to create work based on what the culture of our society is looking towards, whether it's mining, for industry, those type of areas. So I know that Fort Wayne, growing up here, being close to Chicago and visiting that as a kid, you always saw a lot of industrial plants that might have been prosperous at one time, but that was a lot of seeing this metal, the steel that's supposedly solid and then being decomposed over time by the environment was something very significant that I kind of looked at. So
yeah, the look changes over time with that. Now, the two of you have an exhibit that's going to start on January 14th at IPFW. Is there a theme that each of you has, together or separately with the pieces that you've chosen for this?
I think the curator of the show, Bob Schrader, put it together as I was a painter of still life and he was actually a creator of still life.
So we have that kind of theme recurring through all these pieces. Now, have either of you ever done an exhibit like this where you're putting together these different media to show this theme, or is this new for you?
I've never shown paintings with ceramics.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting.
I had a thesis show for my master's where I had other painters with me, and that worked well. But I do think whenever you're trying to bring in your art and show it with another artist that may do a different medium, it's definitely important to look at that work and know the artist's work so you can see if that's going to fit. Because sometimes if you just have paintings and ceramics, you can get a whole mess there of what you're trying to visually say to the viewer.
Right. Now, where does the exhibit take place?
The art gallery in the Visual Arts building at IPFW.
Okay, and it starts on the January 14th, but there's an opening reception on Thursday, January 17th. Is that correct? 6 o'clock. What happens at the opening reception?
Well, there's going to be refreshments and there'll be a little bit of snacks as well.
Opportunity to talk with both of you about your art.
Yeah,
and
that's really the opportunity there for the viewers to come in and one-on-one talk to the artist and understand maybe the process or what was behind that work.
Right. It's kind of a nice chance to be able to say, hey, this to me,
Right.
is appealing in this way, but what did you mean when you painted it, or what were you thinking when you created it? That's a nice opportunity for people to come in and be able to see all of that. How many pieces will each of you have at the exhibit?
I think I have 15.
Oh, so there's quite a few.
I think around 10.
Around 10. Well, that's going to be a very neat exhibit. I also would just got a little bit of time left, but I think it's fascinating. Both of you have graduated from IPFW, degrees from IPFW, and are now adjunct faculty members. So that's a really neat process that you have gone through as students and now are teaching the students who are there now. Do you enjoy that aspect, the teaching, as well as everything that you learned?
I do.
Here?
Yeah,
That's neat.
I think
How
that's
long
the best
have you
part.
been teaching?
I've been there since 2008.
Yes, and you're pretty new,
Yeah,
recent graduate.
just recently teaching here this last semester, and I just finished my master's in May of 2012.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I know I am looking forward to seeing your exhibit in the IPFW Visual Arts Gallery. As we get ready to meet our next guest, please take a minute to view our performance calendar of what is coming up in our area. You also can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll be right back with Dr. Barbara Rush to learn more about the Indiana Music Educators Association State Convention. Welcome back. Joining me for this segment is Dr. Barbara Rush, who wears many musical hats. She's the Associate Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts, as well as the Director of Music Education at IPFW. On top of that, she's the immediate past president of the Indiana Music Educators Association, and today she's here to talk about their upcoming state convention taking place right here in Fort Wayne. Thank you for dropping by.
Thank you.
I am so excited to talk about the IMEA, the Indiana Music Educators Association. What exactly is it, and what is its purpose?
Well, it's the state organization for professional music teachers. So it includes members who teach everything from preschool through 12th grade music, as well as university people like me who are training music educators. So it's our professional organization. It's also part of the National Association for Music Education. The Indiana chapter has about 1,200 members.
Wow. And do most of those attend the convention?
We have an attendance at the convention of about 1,000,
Wow.
but many of those are collegiate members who are studying to be music educators, as well as active teachers.
That's a neat opportunity for them to be able to do that. So explain your title a little bit, because, you know, as the past president, that doesn't mean that you're no longer associated with the organization.
No, it
I know you're a lot. You do a lot with them. So what is it that you're doing with the organization right now?
Well, the organization has a term of office for presidents that's about 6.5 years,
Wow.
and twice during that term of office I was the convention chair for our state conference, and I work with mentoring and bringing on the new officers of the organization. And of course, with the conference being here in Fort Wayne, I've been able to be a little bit more hands-on with putting this year's conference together.
When it's nice and close, and it's coming up
Yes.
soon, January 17th
It is.
through 19th is when it starts. So at this conference, which I know for many, many years was in Indianapolis, and for what, decades it's been in
I think so.
Indianapolis. And so how long has it been in Fort Wayne?
Came to Fort Wayne in 2011 for the first time, so this will be our 3rd year. We've signed on for 1 more year in Fort Wayne, 2014.
And why was the change?
Well, when I became president, I realized how expensive it is to have that conference in Indianapolis. The facilities were very expensive for the association. I already knew that it's a very costly thing for the individual conference goer when you're in a big city like Indianapolis. So the finances were a big part of the move. Another thing that troubled me is that we have so many musical performances that go on at this conference, and in the typical convention center, there's not a very good venue for music making.
Right.
So one of the great opportunities in Fort Wayne is the variety of wonderful performance venues for our performing organizations.
Yeah, because there's really several aspects to this
There
convention. There's the professional development part of it for all the educators. And so what do they do during these couple of days in Fort Wayne?
Well, that's the part that looks like sort of a typical educators convention, and we have probably close to 100 breakout sessions. And I think we work hard every year to make sure that there are sessions that address the current needs of music educators. We're doing on Thursday the 17th a day-long pre-conference on teacher evaluation and how teachers can help their administrators to evaluate music teachers appropriately, since that is such a crucial part of education these days. We will have throughout the conference sessions on assessment of students. There always are technology sessions. There are general interest sessions that probably would cover any music educator's interests. And then also some very specific things, or recording sessions, sessions on reading new music.
This is a very serious opportunity for getting their continuing education.
It's a great professional development opportunity.
But the other aspect of it is the student performances that take place during this. So tell me a little bit about how that works.
Well, there are two strands of performances that happen. One represents the schools and the community organizations that have auditioned and been accepted through a blind audition process to perform. And there are about a dozen of those that were accepted, and they range from elementary through university, choral and instrumental ensembles. So those will be scattered throughout the conference. And then I think for many people, one of the highlights is that our conference is a chance to really showcase students who have auditioned around the state and become part of an all-state or an honor ensemble. And those represent really every area of music education. We'll have an elementary and middle school honor choir, a high school all-state choir, junior high and high school honor bands, the all-state orchestra, and also a jazz band and a jazz combo.
Well, and those kids who participate, they're really the best of the music students in the state. I mean, that's a very exciting thing for them. It's kind of the equivalent of making it past regionals through semi-state and right on all the way for athletic teams.
Really, it is. It's like one of these all-American teams within our state. And what's interesting is they come together only for these few days to rehearse and then to perform So it's a one-time.
And that's quite an experience to watch them. I mean, I had the honor of being a chaperone a couple of years ago down in Indianapolis, and to watch those kids rehearse, it was so intense, but they were so good. They learned so much, and the choir director who was brought in, he he really gave them an experience that, of a lifetime for them.
We always bring in nationally known conductors for each of those ensembles, and you're right, it's really a memorable experience for the students.
Well, and then the performances, I think what's neat is that that's free and open to the public, so people here in Fort Wayne can come and view all of those. Now, the schedule of those performances, if people want to see those, where's the best place to get the most recent information?
Well, visit Fort Wayne, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, which I have to say has been enormously helpful from the beginning in setting up our conference and facilitating that for us. They've posted the schedule on their website. So on the visitfortwayne.com website, you'll find a link to our conference, and then there's a document there that has all of the public performances.
Because they are performing at venues all over Fort Wayne. I mean, tell me where they're going to be. Of course, they're going to be at the embassy, which has to be a huge thrill for these students to be able to perform there.
And that's very exciting to watch the students get up on the stage and then turn around and just see the expanse of that beautiful place. So all of the all-state ensembles except for the jazz group will be performing on the embassy stage. Some of our other performances are in the Grand Wayne Center, which is where most of our sessions are being held. The choral concerts are at First Presbyterian Church with great acoustics for choirs.
Oh, that's perfect.
And there are also a few that are in the theater at the Allen County Public Library. So I think we were able to choose venues that really are going to show off each of these organizations very well.
It's such a wonderful opportunity to be able to perform there. And they are, of course, rehearsing at various venues as well. I mean, I know they're out at IPFW, and I'm assuming at all those other venues as well. So they're all over the place. Now, the program that is more professional development. That is for current music educators, but also for college students who are studying to be music educators. I mean, and you mentioned that there are a lot of them who attend. Tell me about what they can get out of this.
Well, one thing that we've done the last few years is on the Thursday night, so really the night preceding the full conference, we have a collegiate leadership conference, and it goes from about 6 p.m. to midnight, and the college students seem just fine with that. And this year we're bringing in one of the legislative advocates from our national organization who's going to be their keynote speaker. And then they also have some time together. They have their typical pizza and so forth. So that's a great social as well as advocacy developing event. Throughout the conference, there also are sessions that are specifically for college students, what to expect during student teaching, how to organize their time as their undergraduates. And they're also free to attend any of the other sessions that might be in an area that they think they're going to teach later on.
So if they want to go into high school music education, they could do those tracks as well. That's a great opportunity. So are they actual members of IMEA then as college students?
Yeah, they have a greatly reduced membership structure for their fees, but they are full-fledged members of the organization, and of course we encourage them to continue that relationship, and so the first-year teachers, once they do have their job, also get a complimentary registration to the conference their first year, and in a way to encourage them to stay involved.
It's wonderful for them. Now, the performances for all of the groups that's a neat thing that's free and open to the public, but you've got a ticketed event as well. Tell me about that group.
Well, the conference is all day Friday and Saturday, and we typically bring in a big name act for the Friday night concerts, and it is Mr. Jack Daniels Silver Cornet Band. It's a group of brass instruments, and it is, I guess, a group that tries to replicate the sound and the look and the spirit of a turn of the century, that is a turn of the 20th century, small town band. So it is supposed to evoke images of playing in the gazebo in the town square on a summer evening, which we'll all be ready for, I think, in 2 weeks.
And so the tickets for that event, are they available at the door? At the Embassy Theater?
They're being sold through the Embassy, so they could be bought in advance or at the door.
Okay. That's going to be a very wonderful event. So and do the other ensemble events, are they each day? Are they the 17th, 18th, and 19th spread out so that people can attend more than one?
Sure.
If they want?
We work really hard not to schedule them against each other, so
Right.
that both our concert goers and the public can attend all of them. So they're scattered throughout the day on Friday and on Saturday. I think the last one is the All-State Choir at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, the 19th.
So we can do choral and jazz band
Yes.
and orchestra, and I would imagine that there are then families from all over the state that come to
Yes.
see these as well. So that's a nice opportunity
Right.
for Fort Wayne to host all of these.
It is, and that it really, I think, bolsters the attendance and the number of people who are in downtown Fort Wayne during this time, because we have close to 1,000 students in all of those all-state ensembles, and if parents and grandparents and friends are all coming to watch them, we really fill up downtown Fort Wayne.
Sure do. That just having all those students all over, that's really got a lot of vibrancy to it. Well, thank you so much for being here today and telling us all about the convention. I think that it's a great opportunity for people to be able to see what the music students are actually doing in the state of Indiana.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. On the next Arts Weekly, tune in to learn more about two fabulous art exhibits coming up at the University of St. Francis that feature local and national ceramicists. We'll also hear about the Arena Dinner Theater's next show, Almost Maine. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.